Hello everyone and welcome back to Insights at DDLynn Designs, a unique twist in the ancient art of wire. Welcome to my channel if it's your first time being here. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the subscribe, hit the bell so you know when my new tutorials are coming out. And please, it takes less than a second to give me a thumbs up, and your comments and feedback are greatly appreciated. So today we're going to be doing this open spiral bead wrap, and if you notice, I did one loosely and one a little bit tighter. On this one, I used a 14 gauge round wire. And on this one, I used a 16 gauge round wire. And this one, I made it tighter, the spiral, and this one I did more open. I'm also using marbles. I personally don't sell anything that's not a natural gemstone unless it's a Swarovski crystal that I'm embellishing on something like a necklace chain. But for beginners, it's a really great way to make it affordable for you if you're starting out and not have to spend a lot of money on gemstones. You'll notice that on this one, I cut off the wire from the bead, and what's keeping that bead from sliding out is actually the wire wrapping around it. And on this one, I made a little loop on the bottom, and this will be easier for beginners. So we're going to be making these wonderful little spiral wrap bead dangle. They could be earrings, they can be a necklace, you could hang it off a keychain, whatever you like. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and measure my bead, just so that you know, and this measures 15 millimeters. And just to give you a little idea on scale, this is a carnelian gemstone and it measures 12 millimeters. And just so that you can see the difference in size. Now, what's really important when you're first starting out is you want to make sure that your wire gauge will fit through your hole. So these are really old marbles that I've had around for years. And so this is a really big hole. So I was able to get 14, 16, and today we're going to be using 18 gauge wire because I want to make it easier on you when you're first starting out. 14 and 16 gauge is pretty difficult for somebody new to start with. So you need to be able to have more flexible wire. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to be making a loop, because we're going to be doing this design. It'll be a lot easier for beginners. And if you are new to my channel and you aren't a beginner, when I do beginner tutorials, I'm very detail oriented. So you'll just either fast forward, do whatever you need to do. So I'm going to make a loop before I drag my wire through there. And if you haven't used 6-step bail making pliers before, these have 6 steps from left to right, smallest to largest. So we've got 6 steps. We're going to be using our third. So I'm simply just going to make a loop. Oh no, I'm sorry, you guys, we're not using the third on the first loop. We're going to be using our first because I just want a little tiny loop there. And let me cut off this end so that it's flush. And you're simply going to, if you roll towards you, you're going to put your wire in between your 2 barrels. And you want it flush so that you can't feel it. And you're going to roll it forward. Hopefully my camera is maintaining its focus. So then I'm going to get my little stub nose. These are by Xuron. They're little short-jawed, flat nose pliers. They're very heavy duty and they're great when you're just working with little tiny areas that you need to cinch in, because the longer the plier jaw is away from your handle, you lose control. So when you're working with little tiny spots or needing to cinch something down really tight, you just need a short jaw to do that. I tell you, tools are everything. So my dad always used to say to me, a tool makes the job a whole lot easier. And he said, most importantly, the right tool. So now I'm just going to simply slide, and this wire is really long, so I'm going to try to stay in frame here. Slide this through my bead. That's what you should have. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make another loop on top. So I'm going to get my pliers, and these are Xuron as well. They're petite nose. They're hammered to heck and back. That's all glue. The rubber handle guard cracked off. So I keep gluing it, but it's not holding up. And I'm just going to come a little bit above that bead, and I'm going to bend it back That's what you should have. Then I'm going to make the bend face towards me. And I'm going to use the third step. Now I'm going to use the third step on my 6-step veil making pliers. And I'm going to make a loop. And I'm going to push this wire. I'm going to try. It's going to probably hit my camera. Woo, barely made it. Over the top like that. Then I'm going to swing it. I'm going to adjust my wrist, swing it around. Now I'm going to pull this out for a second so you can see this next tip. Notice how the loop is not in line with the bend in the neck of the wire. So this is a really cool tip if you've never done this before. Makes a big difference on when you're making loops. You're going to put your pliers back in and you're going to rock that loop until it lines up parallel with the top of the neck. Isn't that cool? So now I'm going to get my long nose, flat nose pliers, and I'm going to grab mid-mark on that loop, so in the center, and I just want to straighten that wire out. Then I'm going to get in my best working position. You need to find yours. I'm going to hold those wires down again, mid-mark in the loop, so I'm in the middle of the loop, okay? And I'm going to wrap around this neck. And I'm hoping that I can do this. There we go. And I'm going to pull my wire around and over. And I'm going to stop here and I'm going to get my short noses. And I'm going to, nose. And I'm going to cinch this down. And you can see that wire rocking up as I'm doing it. So it's nice and snug against the neck. Then I'm just going to turn this around. Again, this is for beginners. You want to get in a really good working position. And I'm going to swing that wire around again until I fill the neckline. Okay? So I'm going to take a look at that. I'm going to swing it around again. Now, when I'm coming around again, and it's really hard to stay in frame for this, and I just bumped my camera. Let's get that out of the way. All these distractions. So hopefully my camera remains in focus. So now what you want to do is you want to cinch that neck down again. There we go. Just felt it lock in. It's nice and tight in there. And I'm going to scoop my wire out. And I'm going to start swinging it around. And I'm rotating my wrist. I'm using my left hand because I'm right dominant. And I'm kind of leaving it a little open. And I want to bring that down some. You do little adjustments along the way. So let's take a look at that. I don't want it really high up on my bead. If you want it high up on your bead and you want a lot more swirls, you need to cut more wire. And if I failed to mention, I cut 9.5 inches of wire. If you want a lot more loops, to be on the safe side, I would cut 11 inches. And now I'm just going to keep pulling that wire, and I'm using it to my advantage. I'm using the tip of the wire as I'm wrapping around, and I'm doing a very loose wrap. And I'm just twisting it. And then I'm going to let go. So this is kind of something you should have. Now at this point, you could stop. You could say, I like it just like that. I don't want it open like that. This is 14 gauge, which is why I really opened it up, because it's super sturdy. It's not going to get bent. And of course, this one is 16 gauge. And again, I made it a little bit tighter. So before we go any further, I'm going to show you how to add a bead. So I'll be right back. I need to grab my bead. So I'm back. So what I've done is I've grabbed myself a little 4mm Rondell Swarovski crystal. And I'm using the same color tones. You can do whatever you want. So what we're going to do is cut 3 inches of 20 gauge wire. We don't need that much, but if you're a beginner, starting out with a little bit more wire is really, really, really helpful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little spiral. So I'm going to get my needle nose pliers. And again, this is 3 inches of 20 gauge. And I'm just going to make a little, very tight loop. And I'm really pinching down on that end. Now I'm going to get my little stubbies because these are super helpful for this. And I'm going to squeeze it into itself. Holding really close to the neck, that's a really good tip. As I squeeze and push that wire up on itself. And I've got that little starter, and it's kind of like a roll. I'm rolling my hands towards each other. I'm going to stop here. See that little open gap? If you want it closed off, I'm pressing my round wire down flat because I don't want an open gap. And then I'm just rolling it in. And if you bite into your wire, that's okay. It can actually be a decorative design. And I want to see how big that swirl is right now. I don't want it too big. So I'm going to get my 180 grit sand buffing file, and I'm just going to file over. There's another great tip. I do a lot of tips and tricks and techniques because it's everything in wire art. Everything. And you find your own. These work for me. And I just kind of want to give this a flattened look, and it also brushes the copper really beautifully, and it takes your wire marks out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my needle nose, and ooh, those aren't my needle nose. Got a lot of pliers here. And all I'm going to do is get very close to the spiral, and I'm going to bend that back. Just want it nice, clean, and straight, and I'm going to straighten my wire. So there we have it. Then I'm going to get my little bead because I know my 20 gauge will fit through here. I thought it would fit. Yeah, it did. I tried it before I even went on. And all I'm going to do is make a loop and connect it to this loop. So that's going to dangle this little bead with that darling little spiral on the bottom. But I want to do it before I stretch this out because we're going to stretch this out, or it's kind of hard to get it back in there. So as before, I'm just going to bend the neck back. And I'm going to use my 6-step veil making pliers. I'm going to use the smallest step. I'm going to make myself a little loop, rock that over, swing it in, adjust my wrist, and then I'm going to hold firmly and rock this straight up so that it's parallel. Then I'm going to straighten my wire out. And I hope I'm not too close. I hope that's coming in. It's really hard to see it. So you should have a little loop like that. And then as before, I'm just going to hold my little loop down. And this is such light wire, I'm just using my fingers to swing it around. I'm used to managing it, so. Now you could run this wire all the way down. Let's go ahead and do that. And wrap it over the stone and tie it off on the neck. Just a little different design element there, that's all. And then I'm just going to snip it off with my very sharp nippers. Then I'm going to get my little stub nose because this is a tiny little place and I want full control of my wire. And I'm just going to squeeze that in. So this is what we got, this really cute little spiral dangle bead. Now what we're going to do, see why I didn't keep going, is we're going to open this up right here. Where's my open end? It's down in there so beautifully. I can't see my open end. There it is. It was tucked in that hole so nice. And I'm going to slip my little bead on. Isn't that the cutest? Then make sure this is tucked back in there nice down in that hole. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stretch our wire out. And I'm holding Like, think of it as a spring. You don't want to pull from here yet. And just depending on how much you want to come down, and you can tighten up your swirls simply by turning the wire. I'm going to stretch mine out even more. There's my little dangle guy. Get him in there. There we go. And then I'm going to twist this end into a spiral. Now you could cut it off at this point and just twist it up. It depends on what you want. So let's see. I need my round nose. So I'm going to smash this tip. And I'm rolling off that tip. For me, I don't want a blunt end on this spiral. And I'm sliding off the tip and rolling my round nose towards me. And then I'm going to make a spiral, and it can be big or little. I'm going to hold here firmly. And if you find that it starts squeezing in, get your fingernail in there. And see, now I'm controlling the wire. This isn't pulling on me. And I'm just going to roll that in, and then we'll do some tweaking. Just holding that spiral down. We're going to center it up, make a couple adjustments. So all I'm doing is I'm just centering this wire up, making some adjustments, get my little dangle down in there. Now you could, if you didn't like this, and I'm going to bring mine out on an angle, and I'll show you what I mean. Instead of having it spiral, 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 and it's going flat like this, right? I want this spiral to bend down, so I'm just going to simply swing it out. So just grab the little spiral, and I swung it out. And that also makes more room for my little dangle bead. This could also be a planet theme. I've done this making Mars and whatever you want, but isn't that just the cutest little thing? Now, if you want it closer, just spring your wires up. If you want it further away, just stretch them out. I wouldn't use 20 gauge if you're going to stretch them out. But just play with it, have fun with it, and decide on, what it's your taste. So decide on whatever you like. But I really hope that you enjoyed that, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful, magical, ancient art of wire community. I wish for all of you all that you wish for yourselves. I really do. And as Thumper said in Bambi, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Have a magical wire wrap day. Bye for now.